Stonehenge, a name that conjures images of a circle of massive ancient stones standing in the middle of the Salisbury Plain in England today. One of the world's most mysterious ancient structures, this iconic marvel dates back, we think, over 4,000 years, with some estimates pushing its origins, we think, as far as 5,000 years ago. But I believe that it could potentially be even older than that by a couple thousand years, due to the fact that over the course of many years of studies since the 1950s, the age number continues to grow and grow. So I place the estimate of Stonehenge to be about 7,000 or even 8,000 years old. It's believed now to have been constructed during the Neolithic period. Its creators were said to be early human societies who left behind no written records, only the stones and much speculation. And with that being said, I believe that the structure was not in fact created by Neolithic people, but by an upper Paleolithic culture known as the Solutrean culture, based from modern places like France, Spain, and Portugal today. And I believe this was through the basis of a cultural exchange of information between Ice Age cultures. Those Ice Age cultures would be the Paleo-Indians of North America and the Solutrean people of Europe. Let's dive into this mystery. The purpose of Stonehenge remains one of the greatest ancient riddles. Many theories suggest it may have functioned as a celestial calendar of sorts, aligning with the solstices to mark the changing of seasons, and this does make sense. Others propose that it was a sacred site for rituals, healing, or burial ceremonies, but I think that it perhaps served as both of these utensils. But beyond its purpose, its construction is equally perplexing. How did ancient humans move these enormous stones, some weighing over 25 tons, without modern tools or machinery over 150 miles? Who built it and why? These questions have fascinated generations, and while there remain many people who claim to have the answers do remain unanswered. And everything I propose in this video is merely my opinion and my theory. And I'd love to hear your theory as well in the comments. I'm pretty open-minded, so I love hearing all sorts of different theories, and who knows, perhaps your theory could make a video. And with that being said, I would like to mention real quick that under my YouTube membership plan, you can indeed request videos for me to cover, and we can perhaps correlate with one another for information and citations for said video. I'm always looking for new topic ideas and video ideas, guys, so by all means. Nonetheless, today isn't about the infamous Stonehenge directly. Not yet, anyway. This mystery deepens when we consider another site with striking similarities. Hidden not on land, not in Europe, but beneath the cold, dark waters of Lake Michigan in the United States. In 2007, Mark Holley, an underwater archaeologist and professor at Northwestern Michigan College, made the discovery of a lifetime, or really many lifetimes, beneath the waters of Lake Michigan near Traverse City. While he was surveying the lake bed, Mark and his team uncovered a prehistoric structure that has ignited debate ever since. The prehistoric structure was submerged 40 feet below Lake Michigan's surface, and the structure was a series of large granite stones arranged in a very deliberate circular pattern, much resembling Stonehenge in Europe. The structure spans about 40 feet in diameter with an inner circle of stones measuring roughly 20 feet across. These massive stones, each weighing an estimated 3,000 pounds, suggest careful placement by ancient human beings living in North America. Among the findings was an extraordinary artifact and an astounding revelation about the people of North America. It was a rock engraved with what appears to be a prehistoric carving of a mastodon, a species that of course went extinct around 11,000 years ago. The structure is believed to date back an astonishing 10,000 years, making it not only older than the famous Stonehenge in England, but potentially the oldest known structure in North America. This ancient structure is just that, ancient. But I believe that it's potentially even older than 10,000 years, ranging from roughly 15,000 years to 18,000 years ago. And I believe its ties are with the end of the Pleistocene epoch, a time when massive glaciers covered much of North America. This era was around 20,000 years ago. As the Earth gradually warmed, the massive Laurentide ice sheet began its slow retreat. By around 15,000 years ago, much of the Great Lakes region was transitioning from a frozen expanse to an evolving tundra, dotted with newly exposed landforms shaped by centuries of glacial movement. During this period, vast stretches of terrain were likely habitable for both humans and megafauna like mastodons. These open spaces, rich with glacial meltwater and emerging vegetation, would have provided ideal hunting grounds and areas for early human settlements. And by around 8,000 years ago, the Laurentide ice sheet had diminished to a fraction of its original size, retreating to what is now modern-day Quebec and Labrador, resembling the scale of Greenland's current ice sheet today. But if the Lake Michigan stone circle was constructed closer to 15,000 years ago, it would have stood on dry land right near the glacial margins of the Laurentide ice sheet, in a landscape dominated by sparse vegetation, cold-adapted fauna, and flowing meltwater rivers carving the channels into the earth. This environment would have been both challenging yet resource-rich for early human populations. Such conditions probably would have inspired the creation of a stone circle for purposes tied to survival. In fact, we know it to be true because there was one there. Perhaps this marks the key of astronomical events like solstices, like we know with Stonehenge. It would make a lot of sense, too, if it was to prepare for seasonal changes in response to the harsh and dynamic environment that they were living in. And if the site truly dates to this earlier period, and even to its current speculated date of 10,000 years, it certainly reflects the adaptability and ingenuity of early human societies navigating a world in dramatic transition for the time. As the glaciers slowly receded, the exposed landscape would have been vastly different from the submerged terrain that we of course see today. Early human groups, probably what we would call Paleo-Indians now, may have utilized the land that is now surrounding the underwater Stonehenge underneath Lake Michigan. They would have utilized the land as part of their hunting, their gathering, or potentially their ritual practices. So for the sake of future research and inspiring archaeologists or researchers, the area around the Lake Michigan Stonehenge could be riddled with evidence of a thriving Ice Age society. The mastodon carving found near the site strongly supports this theory, as these Ice Age megafauna were still heavily prevalent 15,000 years ago. Additionally, the sophistication of the structure and its deliberate arrangement and massive stones may indicate that it was indeed part of a larger cultural or ritualistic tradition that predates the widely accepted timeline for complex human construction here in North America. The site could represent an early example of humans organizing labor, technology, and astronomical understanding far earlier than previously thought. If the dating pushes closer to 15,000 years, it should align with the Clovis, or I think the beginning of the Clovis cultures. These groups are increasingly recognized as having settled in North America earlier than the traditional quote-unquote 12,000 year timeline, suggesting that they were capable of creating structures of significant cultural or spiritual importance at the time. This theory not only challenges current understanding of early human capabilities, but also paints a picture of a North America with more advanced prehistoric societies long before recorded history. And despite its significance, the origins and purpose of this underwater stone circle still remains a mystery. Was it a site of ceremonial importance, Was it a navigational tool? Or was it simply a marker of astronomical events? And then there's the question, the grand question of all. Who the hell made this thing? And much like Stonehenge, this submerged formation raises more questions than it does answers. Scientists and historians alike have been left to speculate, with no definitive explanation for who built it or why. But I do firmly believe that Paleo-Indians of North America constructed this structure roughly 15,000 years ago, and I believe that in some way, shape, or form, it influenced the construction of the infamous Stonehenge in England roughly 7,000 or 8,000 years later. This is an intriguing possibility that the creators of this Lake Michigan Stonehenge could have directly or indirectly inspired the construction of the Stonehenge in England, suggesting that the exchange of ideas and knowledge among ancient cultures, Ice Age cultures, may have occurred far, far earlier than previously believed. The Solutrean hypothesis offers a fascinating and quite honestly perfect framework for this theory of cultural exchange. This controversial hypothesis proposes that early humans from the Solutrean culture of Ice Age Europe who lived around 20 to 23,000 years ago may have crossed the Atlantic Ocean along ice margins and reached North America. The Solutrean hypothesis is a fascinating and controversial theory, suggesting that the early humans from the Solutrean culture of Ice Age Europe may have, in fact, been in contact with early Paleo-Indians. The hypothesis states that Solutrean people who lived approximately 20,000 to 23,000 years ago in present-day France, Spain, and Portugal, and parts of Italy could have traveled across the North Atlantic Ocean during the last glacial maximum. At that time, much of the ocean was covered with expansive sheets of ice, potentially creating an ice bridge or fragmented land and ice paths that these early seafarers could have used as ice vessels. The most interesting proposition of this theory is the idea that a small band of Solutrean people or Ice Age Europeans were traversing the southern border of France in search of seals and other seafaring game to hunt. They were known to use small canoes in the ocean at this time, and they would hunt the game along the large chunks of ice, setting up temporary settlements on these large chunks of ice. And it's theorized that this small band of Europeans got caught in a large ice storm. Now, mind you, during this time, the last glacial maximum, these ice storms were much more intense than modern storms today, and they would be cast away along these massive icebergs where they would in turn get thrown into the Gulf Stream, the Gulf of Mexico stream, and the storm would then propel them far enough into the stream to reach North America in a very timely manner. In fact, there was a thought experiment done that says that they could potentially reach North America within 3 to 4 days. The Solutrean people were known for their highly sophisticated stone tool technology, characterized by finely crafted leaf-shaped flint blades, a tool that was very unique to them at this time. These tools were strikingly similar to the Clovis points created by Paleo-Indians in North America roughly 13,000 years ago. While mainstream archaeologists attribute the Clovis points development to independent innovation, proponents of the Solutrean hypothesis argue that these similarities could suggest a direct share of information between two Ice Age cultural groups across the world. Perhaps the Solutrean people showed Paleo-Indians how to craft their sleek Clovis-style points, and perhaps the Paleo-Indians inspired and showed the Solutrean people to bring the idea of Stonehenge to Europe around 8,000 years ago, my estimated age of the Stonehenge in England. If transatlantic contact occurred during the Ice Age, it would imply that early humans were capable of long-distance travel and the exchange of ideas. Cultures separated by vast distances might have shared knowledge about monumental construction, ceremonial practices, or celestial alignments. The similarities between the Lake Michigan structure and Stonehenge in England, a deliberate circular arrangement of massive stones, could hint at a shared tradition or a convergence of ideas passed down through generations. And the same is true for the Clovis style or Solutrean style points. Furthermore, if the Lake Michigan stone circle truly dates back 15,000 years or more like I'm proposing, and Stonehenge is closer to 8,000 years old, they would predate each other by at least 7,000 years. This timeline suggests that ancient North American societies may have developed these ideas of constructing monumental stone structures long before their European counterparts. The mastodon carving and the precise arrangement of stones could also reflect an advanced understanding of symbolism, astronomy, and the natural world alike, which may have been part of a shared cultural heritage among the groups. While direct evidence of cultural exchange remains elusive, the possibility that ancient peoples communicated or influenced one another across continents forces us to rethink the capabilities and interconnectedness of Ice Age civilizations and early humanity abroad. The Lake Michigan site might not just be a representation of an isolated innovation, but could be a crucial piece in understanding the global spread of human creativity and knowledge in the ancient world. The underwater enigma, with its remarkable parallels to Stonehenge in England and its discovery, reshapes our understanding of ancient North American civilizations, and it challenges us to delve deeper into humanity's prehistoric past.